Welcome to the Box 2 Path Show, where we dive deep into the realms of education and financial literacy. We blend insights on college education, career prospects, and the necessary financials to stay on your path. I'm your host, Senioritis, and today I'm thrilled to have our co-host, Dr. Gordon Chu. Dr. Chu is not just an author, innovator, investor, and scientist, but also a visionary who has completed Wharton's Advanced Management Program and Harvard's Business Analytics Program. He has co-founded his startup Fenegra in February of 2023, which has won that year's Global Tough Technology Prize in the Harvard Business School New Venture Competition. Let's welcome Dr. Chu.
Hi, dear Raj. I am very glad to be doing our second episode, right? And to answer any questions, someone wanting to get into college, who's in college, and also looking at life paths are about. But I want to ask you a question first is you're still in high school, right?
Yes, yes.
And this is your last year in high school.
Yep, I'm a senior.
Yeah, and do you know that like right now, one of the big diseases for seniors is senioritis?
I think I'm getting affected by that right now.
All
I
right.
think I have a severe case of that.
Yeah, right. I mean, you look around, no one's doing anything. Well, I have
Yeah,
an antidote for senioritis. What
really.
you're about to experience, Diraj, from this these podcasts and these
Uh-huh.
questions you asked me, is you're going to be hit with something so terrible in your life that you wish that you did not waste time on senioritis.
Uh-huh.
First
I-
of all, getting a job. That's no easy task, right?
Yep.
Getting into college is just the beginning of that checkpoint. This is where you begin to spend money. This is where you're going to spend $120,000 because you're not going to be working for 4 years. You're
Yeah.
actually not going to use your high school diploma, at all, right? Can you imagine spending how long did you spend to get your high school diploma? It's not 4 years because you also had your middle school and your elementary school years that you woke up every morning, something like 7 o'clock, others at 6:30, whatever it was. And
Uh-huh.
then you didn't play video games. You didn't buy, you didn't go spend time. You spent time studying,
Study.
right? Because your
Yeah.
parents said you got to study and you did homework and you missed out on a huge portion of your life, didn't you?
I think I did. Yeah, a lot
Right.
of
Yeah.
discoveries that could have been made, not made.
Right. A lot of sacrifices, right? And
Yeah.
and I don't know like how many people have um a person in mind that they're going to be spending the rest of their life with. Or they found them, but you might not have found them in your high school. Still
Mm,
haven't, right? And
yeah.
even if you're with someone, you might be thinking, is there someone else? So, but here we are in the last year of high school. Everybody who's gone through it remembers it. It's like we aren't going to do anything. The teachers aren't even going to do anything. Like the one year you want to teach if you're a teacher in high school is the senior class because the second half of the year, there's not much to be done. It's like having
Yeah.
a party, right? And
Yes.
yeah.
I mean, every day we're just like one day the teacher puts a movie, fifth period it's a talk, sixth period it's a game. So
So imagine as a teacher, right? Senior teaching the senior class. You don't have to do a lot. Everybody's having a party. It's a good feeling, by the way, right? You
yeah.
know, unless it's like the Hansel and Gretel movie, right? Where you're all going to be cooked inside the pot by the ugly witch, right? Because they're going to like roast you. So I mean, this is like a really serious problem. Look at how expensive the houses are. Look at how the world is. Look at the amount of debt you're going to take on just to go for another 4 more years in college. And then look at on our last show, if you're an English major or history major, look at what they're going to pay you and how you're not going to get your 10x in your entire lifetime, right?
Yep. Yep.
Right. Unless you roll the dice again and go to law school or medical school with those degrees, which is fine, by the way. But there's
Then
cost to medical school, which means that with the undergraduate degree that you could have made money, you're going to take that and not work again for another 4 years. And in
yeah.
medicine, it's more than four because if you do 4 years of medical school, then then you end up becoming a family doctor or general practitioner, and that has its own salary, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Definitely.
yeah, so that probably a general practitioner I mean, could you venture to say that a general practitioner's salary is less than a surgeon's salary?
Uh, it is.
Right? So
Yep.
according to ZipRecruiter or Indeed, they say that physician general practitioner, right? Like salary.com, is around 200 to $230,000 as the average salary for Florida, Ohio, New Jersey, Texas. That's what salary.com says, right? Okay.
Yep. Yep.
Now, if we typed in orthopedic surgeon, right? That's very, very different, right? Orthopedic
Yeah.
surgeon salary is about on salary.com, the average, and they actually split it to different states, but in New Jersey, it's 600,000, right? But it ranges from the high fours to to about 700, let's just say 800,000. Okay.
Yep. Yep.
All right. Now, now the now then you got to also think about, are you with a hospital? Are you the owner of the hospital network? Are you high in there? So if you're at a hospital, then this is under another data set. It says for if you're an orthopedic surgeon, then
Yeah.
you might make 600,000. So it's a little bit higher than the 590. So it's 600, right? But
Mhm.
you're now reaching, like, it doesn't like jump, right? Okay. But you've got to calculate how much school do you need for an orthopedic surgeon, right?
That's almost 10 years. 10 years you could have been making money.
Yeah. How much orthopedic surgeon needs for school after college, let's say. All right. So after college, you need another, it says another 9 years, right? And so including college, 9 plus 4 is 13. But don't forget, you are going to, and this is according to the University of Medicine and Health Sciences, UMHS, right? So we're actually using documented things that are out there when I give you answers, right?
Yeah.
Um, Now that's, what it's like from high school. Now you're a senior in high school. So imagine adding 13 years of nonstop. That means it's nonstop, right? So I
Yeah.
stopped after like Rensselaer, Polytechnic Institute, summa cum laude. I told you I couldn't really study for the grades anymore. Like that's all you do when you're in high school. That's all
Yeah.
you do. So you get into college, but there's
Yeah.
something called you know, like loss of morale. Like, why am I doing this? There's all these kind of questions. So
Even
imagine
useless,
adding,
but useful. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, imagine adding 13 years from where you are now,
Yeah.
like one more because you're still in senior. So imagine in 14 years, right, of
And then
nonstop action.
the jealousy that comes with it, seeing that your friends, maybe some guys are in business making like 200K a year.
Yeah, but you're going to make 800.
Yeah.
You can make 600. So 600 to 800. So the number was 600. So if you do 600,000, so let's do the math first, okay?
Yeah.
So let's see, like, what does it cost, you think, to go to medical school?
Cost to go to medical school. Let's Google it.
Yeah. Isn't that like hard to do? Like, how much does it cost to go to medical school? I'm just gonna type it in, right? Okay.
One
And
nurse.
and it says the average yearly cost of medical school is 60,000 a year, like 58,968. That's the number that comes out of Education Data Initiative. But why don't we just make it like simpler, right? Remember that 30,000 we're doing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
So that's something we use because we said the job and that, but if we wanted to make numbers simple, then we
mhm.
say average yearly cost of medical school would be 60,000. Average salary of a history major or English major, unless you have those other majors like computer science, right? You're gonna average salary could be 60,000, right? So 60 and 60 is always easier than having a bunch of numbers, right? So all we're gonna do is say after college, your salary is going to double than when you were going to make with a high school diploma. And if you choose to go to medical school,
Mhm.
it also costs you an additional 60. So it's like 60 plus 60. So 120 because you're not making money. So you're not making your 60. And you're going to go and borrow, but let's say you already borrowed to get into college, and now you're going to borrow more, right? But we're not going to calculate borrowing costs. We're just going to say 60,000 for the cost of the school, right? Okay. So
Hmm.
60,000 times two, because you're not working, and then times four, right? So now
Uh,
you have 480,000 that you've spent on top of spending the 240, right? That you did in college, right?
yeah, yeah.
All right. So 240, right? And then now you're at 480 plus 240 thousands is 720,000. So 10 times in your lifetime would be 7.2 million, except that for an orthopedic surgeon, it doesn't stop, right? Because you have to keep you have to go 14 years, right? So 14 years from when you're a senior in high school. So if you only we only calculate for 4 more years after college, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
you still need, right? If it's 14 and you only counted eight, that means you have another 6 years of expenses and not making money. Or you're making some kind of small amount, whatever it is, it's costing you, right?
yeah.
Against your time, right? Because you also have to calculate, and this will be a great formula for you to put together because we don't calculate how we feel, right? When we spend like if we added 14, how old are you now?
I'm 17,
All right, so 17 plus 14, right?
31 years.
30,
I'm 31 when I start making money.
yeah, yeah. But at 31, you don't wake up feeling the same way.
Exactly.
You don't even make children the same way.
Yeah,
Right? Because someone in like 18, 19, not that you want to be doing this, but you don't have to try very hard to make children.
yeah, yeah,
31, you might need to see a doctor to help you along. Right?
yeah.
The timeline is a little bit different for making children when
Uh-huh.
you add 14 more years. Like right now, you better make sure you have protection.
Yeah,
People have, when they make children at 31 without the protection, it still doesn't work very well. They need to use enhancers, right?
yeah,
Okay, so
yeah, yeah.
so then if you add like, you, you know, can you imagine the cost of just when you finished and you're an orthopedic surgeon, how it feels to now be a dad? Like right away, you're going to make children. You're not going to make children right away.
No, you're not. You have to maybe enjoy life a bit, go out, travel.
Okay, so you're gonna go out and do like live like a king, right? So so let's see how that feels, right? If you start asking these people how it feels, it's serious, right? It's serious. Now, now the total cost, right, of
Mm.
in-state medical school, right? We said 60 times four would be 240, right? But if you could save a little bit and go to an in-state public medical school, it's
Mhm.
going to cost less than the number we used, right? But
Mm.
if you go to an out-of-state private school, it could cost more than the number we use, just so people have some understanding of what we're dealing with, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
none of those statistics tell you how you feel at 31. How do you feel missing all the people you could have like found? Now they're with someone else, and now the stockpile is less. Unless you were to go and find someone in their 20s when you're in your 30s, right?
Yeah.
Or someone in their teens when you're in 30s. People do that too.
Oh,
Right. But the other side is why would someone in their teens or in their early 20s want to be with someone who is in their 30s? Now, you might say because they make more money, right? They do, but they're also older. They're also pretty busy. Remember how I said that if someone pays you a certain amount, that they expect you to make 10 times more for them, right? In corporate
yeah,
America.
yeah.
Well, for doctors, it's not just, it doesn't work just that way. Is they expect you to work at all kinds of crazy hours at
Exactly.
31, right?
Saving lives at random times. Yeah.
I mean, if you have an itch when you're an orthopedic surgeon in your back or inside your pants, how do you scratch it? All
You
right, what do? You tell the nurse, "Can you scratch my back?" It's like, yeah, but it's not my back. It's like lower down there. No one's
yeah.
gonna, you can't even, there are some problems. What I wanted to highlight for you, just to make it fun for people,
Uh-huh.
we've got some problems when you get older, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and another way to look at 31 is it's 9 years before 40.
Wow.
Yeah, right? 9 years before 40.
Yeah. And
So
I feel like
now,
most of this information is so hidden because like you go to the counselor and the
yeah,
counselor says XYZ and doesn't really give you the real knowledge because like the what does the counselor achieve, right? And
Well,
this
what
is
no, we should talk about what the counselor achieved. What did the counselor achieve?
not
Right.
much. Like,
Well, but they didn't spend as much to invest, right? So someone who's an orthopedic surgeon or
yeah,
thinking about that, better think about like the other, like this is why the algorithm you're gonna like this whole world is about algorithms. What you're gonna be coming up with is something
yeah,
that like how do you feel, how do most people feel at 31?
not good. Lazy. They don't have the will to travel.
Uh-huh.
The sex drive is lost. Travel will to lost. Like feel like sitting at home most days. So
You should probably look up the average age of needing to take Viagra, right? So let's
yeah.
say, so I mean, it's just like a great, okay, so the average age,
Uh-huh.
the age you start using Viagra is 33.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's where Pfizer, the company who manufactures drugs, starts keeping records. They don't keep records before 33 because it's not worth it. But the average onset is 53. Okay, so
53.
now like you just like it's not like when you hit 53, all these problems happen. Is as you get there,
It's
problems
a
happen. Just
slow escalation.
biological, cost of life, right?
Yeah.
And what this okay, and it says right here, by Medicine Net, says the drug should not be used in young men who do not have erection problems. So if we have to reword the thing, is that after 33, you might start having erection problems.
Exactly.
And the average
Yeah.
is 53. So it's like that doesn't matter if you're an orthopedic surgeon or not, right? It's just going to happen, right? Like the fish don't care if the fishing pole is made of gold or it's made of plastic. It's just, used to catch fish.
Yeah.
So right? So the practicality of life just starts setting in, right? Okay. Now,
Mhm.
remember, I put it in the memory recall here. So we're going to just say 720,000 because it's 60,000 times four, right? Plus the another 60,000 times four because the cost of medical school and the cost of not working, plus so now you actually know nothing about getting a job, right? You know nothing
Yeah.
about getting a job. It's either boom or bust. You better be the orthopedic surgeon. And then you add in the 240,000 you owe for medical school, and that comes out to be 720,000, and 10x of that is 7.2 million, right? Okay,
Mhm.
now remember, let's do the average salary of a orthopedic surgeon, which we found out was 600,000, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, 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 600,000 against 600,000 has to be taxed though, right? So then you multiply that by point 0.6 because you're going to keep 60%, tax is going to be 40%, especially at these high salaries, right? So
Mhm.
360,000, right? And they say you also, just to be fair, you're going to live at home with your parents, all right?
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
another model, right? But now you're living at home with your parents, starting at 31. That gets really interesting, by the way. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Because you might need to do a little bit more on the weekends for them because they're now a little older, right? Okay. Working
Exactly.
at home, you
Yeah.
might be, if you bring home a date, right, girl or guy, you bring
Pretty
home, someone, it's like
pretty
someone
weird.
watching, someone who changed your diapers, knows who you're bringing there. That's a lot of years, right? By the way.
Yeah.
So, so now let's go and look at how that feels, right? So that nets you 350,000 because 360 minus 10K of expenses. And also, what kind of clothing are you going to wear? Spending 10K a year, right? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now, but you still have that iPhone, right?
Yeah.
All right. So,
Yeah.
so no matter what your salary, you still have the iPhone. But 350,000 is the number you need to divide into the
Uh-huh.
7.2 million. All right. Ready for this? So
Yeah.
7.2 million divided by 350,000 means you have to work for 21 years. Wait a minute. That number happens to be really similar to the computer scientist, except that he or she is out there in their 20s,
Making money. Uh,
making money, enjoying their 20s, right?
more opportunity for growth too.
And
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
you know that the one at 31, when they're coming out, and there's all, by the way, both of them live with their parents, but you see, your parents act different 10 years, like when you're in your 20s or just out of
Yeah.
college, and they're going to act different than when you're in your 30s
Exactly.
because they're going to be 10 years older. And then 10 years older for your parents. means that they might have some health issues, right?
Yeah, you have to take care of them now, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
you have your wife probably. Yeah,
10 years is enough to make or break like a lot. Okay.
yeah.
So a lot of things break, after 10 years. But the number 21 of working 21 years, if you're making that 190,000 number, you also have to work there and you can actually cover your 10x cost. Now, remember 10x of 2.4 million. I
Oh,
mean, 10x of 240,000, 2.4 million is not the same as an orthopedic surgeon now who's going to net 7.2 million, right? Okay. In
exactly.
20 years. But 20 21, so 17 plus 4, 21, right? At 21 plus 21 years, right?
Mhm.
Means that at 42, you're going to have net of 2.4 million, right?
Exactly.
You
Mhm.
could blow it up, by the way, by making wrong decisions. So that's also something really interesting.
And
Uh,
who knows? You get in a car crash, you lose a
yeah,
limb.
all kinds of things. But you could do that when you're an orthopedic surgeon too, except that, now, unlike going to California, remember that article about the Bay Area and all that? Well,
Yeah.
unlike going there, as an orthopedic surgeon, you are going right to the hospital, right? A major hospital, because you're not going to be an orthopedic surgeon. Um, at the in a small town, a rustic area,
Yeah.
where you've got fewer people. You're going to go to metropolitan, right? So your
Mhm.
costs of living in the metro city are also going to be um different, and you have less freedom and things like that. Depending and versus if you're a computer science major, you could probably be working from home, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You got the job in the Bay Area, but now people are into work from home, so you can work. How do you work from home as an orthopedic surgeon?
You cannot.
So
Cannot.
you lose the work from home opportunity also. And then
Yeah.
say
Yeah.
COVID happens and like it did, right? Then you have more constraints, but still 21. And if you take the 31 and add 21 to that, you end up getting 52. So instead of 42 at 52, you now have more money than the other person, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
how much more money? Well, 7.2 million minus 2.4 million means you will have netted $4.8 million more than the other person. So
Wow.
there's a
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is a difference. There is a cost, but there is also a benefit. The benefit is that both were able to make their 10x, right?
Yo. Hmm.
Now, we talked about the English major, history major, as is after they spent the 240,000, that they do not make the 10x. Takes them like 80 years. They have to work to 100, right? They don't make the 10x.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why, right? Why is it important to go to college? Well, is it? So if we took a number and say that a person who never spent money in college, right? And they were able to make 30,000 a year, right? And say there is no raises, right?
No
Okay.
raises.
And they
120K.
and they work for 40 years. What will they have? Well, 30,000. You got to pay the
1.2 million.
taxes. They probably don't have to pay 40% of their taxes, right? Okay.
Mhm.
But but let's just for fairness, just assume that they had to. So they would have $118,000 to spend. Um, Now they're living at home with their parents, let's say again, right? And 18,000 with their parents, and but if we subtracted the 10,000 that all people need to spend per year, then 30,000, if you subtracted this, got rid of the 40% of taxes, you're left with 18,000. You have to subtract $10,000. Now you're left with 8,000. And if you worked for 20 years, and you said I want to stop, you now have only netted 160,000. So you don't become a millionaire in 20 years. If you said, well, how do I compare against the bio major? Well, the bio major, we said they're going to work for 80 years. So we're going to just multiply by 80. You get
Mhm.
640,000. So you actually never get to become a millionaire, even working 80 years as the with a high school diploma, provided there's some caveats that provide you don't get a raise, provide you're not You're not going in the outlier of let's say you can be a real estate broker and sell some really expensive houses, and you could change this outcome, right?
Exactly.
Right. So
Hmm.
the outcome isn't set 100%. It highly depends on what you do outside of the thing. But the degree does have certain things. So first of all, the degree is valuable, right? One
Hmm.
thing about, and more degrees are more valuable, right? But there's a cost that we cannot not consider. First of all, what if you bet on college pre-med and
Hmm.
then you burn out by your fourth year in medical school,
It's
so
too
that,
hard. Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
you don't continue, and you end up as a family doctor. So now what happens, right? That's another great formula to calculate, right? Because we said that the average salary of a medical doctor, generalist, right,
Uh-huh.
is 200,000, and then we get 60% on that. That's 1.2 million, right? 120,000, right?
Hmm.
You're gonna subtract $10,000 for the expenses. So because of we are being fair. So you have $110,000. And if you work for so how many years do you have to work to cover your costs? 110,000. Now, remember that what you're going to cost is also still going to be that 720,000. We actually didn't calculate what the orthopedic surgeon would spend. So that number was a little off, right? We're just using up to medical school and somehow they got all scholarships, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So we're going to still use that 720,000, meaning if you finish medical school, you better net 7.2 million, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Orthopedic surgeon didn't calculate the full number, but still they were making a lot, 600K, that they can get there. But 7.2 million divided by 110,000 because they're going to make 200,000. We're going to get taxed 40%. We're then going to only spend $10,000 on our expenses,
Expenses, which is a
110,000,
bit
right?
unrealistic,
Right.
but yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a tough road, right? So
Yeah.
7.2 million divided by 110 means that as a regular family doctor, you will have to work 65 years.
To
So at
make
21, to make 10x, to make that set to net that 7.2 million, provided nothing goes wrong, provided you don't drop dead, provided you don't get sick, right? A lot of other things. But 7.2 million, because we always say 10x of what we spend, right? Um,
uh-huh.
because you're going to net 110,000 and you're going to live like a monk for a while, right?
Yeah.
And you're going to live at home with your parents, but your
Hmm.
parents will be a little younger than the orthopedic surgeon parents, but still that 110,000 will cost you because you're making a lower base, right? It's going to cost you 65 years. So 21 out of college, right? Plus
Hmm.
another 4 years out of medical school. 21 plus 4 means that that's 25, maybe 26 because you had a year or so. So 25 plus
Yeah.
65
Hmm.
means you got to work until you're 90.
Wow. 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 To a net.
To net the 7.2, all right.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe you then have to change your goals. Oh, I don't need all 10x. But if you start changing your goalposts based on the formula, now you don't know what you're doing, right? You could always work less, right? So I'm just saying to keep the goalposts the same. 10x, not per year like corporate requires as a corporation, but 10x for your lifetime. Put that in your formula. And then say, now that I take on more loans and other things, and we didn't calculate interest rates and other things like that, we didn't do that. We just flat out said it was free. There's no interest rates, but
Hmm.
whatever you spent, you need to make 10 times that amount in your lifetime. And the more you spend, the more you expect to make in your lifetime, right? That's just normal, right? That you expect that.
Yeah.
But is it reasonable? Can you achieve
No,
it?
it's
Do
not.
people reasonably work till they're 90?
No, they don't.
Right?
At one
Yeah.
point, they fatigue. Yeah.
Do you know statistically right now, not everyone has senioritis. You'll always have someone in your school that keeps working even in their senior year.
Yeah.
Right? Right? But the
Yeah.
vast majority, right, they are going to be they are going to be saying, "Oh my, I can't." And especially when socially, right? So one of your biggest social events in your life will be your quarter life crisis. You've heard of midlife crisis, but quarter life crisis is when it's like senioritis on steroids, is that you graduate from college,
Hmm.
right? And then you like start having these like issues within the next 4 years. Like after college, at 21, you don't have senioritis again. You don't have quarter life crisis. It hits you 4 years from now.
Hmm.
4 years in college. So at 25, that's why it's called quarter because you assuming you go to 100, right? So quarter
Yeah.
life crisis. So around 25 to 30. So imagine coming out of school when that quarter life crisis feeling hits you right away. You don't even get to have fun,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, we went a little long today because of
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
we had to go into the deep detail of
Yeah.
quarter life crisis, but you should look at like people listening to this should look up what this means. The definition is involving anxiety, according to the popular psychology, involving anxiety over the direction and quality of one's life.
Wow. I feel like this is such important information. Like not many people like they just say I want to be an orthodontist. They look at their uncle maybe, look
Mhm.
look at his Mercedes Benz, but they don't realize he's probably 50, done been through all of this and
Mhm.
really puts into perspective what life and reality is really like.
Yeah. According to popular psychology, a quarter life crisis is a crisis involving anxiety over the direction and quality of one's life, commonly experienced between their early 20s up to their mid 30s. So it can hit you at any time. It can actually begin as early as 18 years old.
Yeah.
It has
Yeah.
been defined by clinical psychologist Alex Falk as a period of insecurity, doubt, and disappointment surrounding your career, relationships, meaning like your dating, your social, and your financial situation. So you want to solve this problem. Well, you're going to be famous. You should get a Nobel Prize, right? You know, just for discussing this because solving something means you bring it in the front and center for discussion. And and the whole thing about living and life is knowing what your personal identity is. But what is your identity? Like who are you, Diraj? What are you? Who are you? How are you? That's
Yeah.
actually, people
Yeah.
say like how are you doing? Like how are you? Well,
Yeah.
when you get a job, your um your job, oftentimes you may have heard this, is your job defines your identity. Is your work defines your identity, which your work shouldn't identify, you're not your work and your work isn't you, but you spend so many hours in your work that it ends up
Mhm.
defining. So if if anything to take away is that don't waste time. Don't spend it on senioritis. It's not worth it.
Yeah.
Especially with in another few years, you have another crisis coming, quarter life crisis. We
Yeah.
should really be thinking about um, how, here's some symptoms of quarter life crisis that people need to know about. Is you're going to feel lost, you're going to feel scared, you're going to feel lonely, you're going to feel confused
Mhm.
as an early adult. And uh, the studies have shown that if you're unemployed, that's a direct feed into the that's a direct feed
Mhm.
into getting a disease, this disease state to come about. And if you've chosen the wrong career path that doesn't work out, like you have a bad boss, something like
Yeah.
that, that's another major um, cause for having anxiety and stress, which are feedstocks into this quarter life crisis symptoms.
Yeah.
Um, and then and then if you had to if you could live at home with your parents,
Yeah.
they were supportive, that's helpful. But if they're not supportive,
Uh-huh.
right, that's negative. And also if you said, well, I'll just move out on my own, that's also living on your own, coping with all the things without like the dorm, without the college, Without
Yeah.
that whole thing is it also further induces feelings of isolation and loneliness, of trying to figure it out when there's no fallback plan. So
Uh-huh. Yeah.
this is all like well documented um in the science behind it. So how could you spend uh time as a senior in high school on senioritis, right? When you hear about these types of things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like we really need a solution to all of this
Hmm.
because you're going to hit a lot of high schoolers with this information and they're not going to know what to do. What's the plan of
No, in
action?
fact, all everybody cares about is getting into college, right?
Yeah,
Um,
they don't I think
yeah.
what's after.
Right. But what happens after college? What happens like after college is something really terrible within the first few years. And and you heard the study. It's like the the you're dealing with all of these factors from romance to friends to career to finding out that it wasn't so good. How were they able to party like that
Yeah,
as a senior in high school? Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. I think that's all we have time for today. Thank you a lot, Dr. Chu, for your really deep insights that not many people are thinking about. And I we both really hope this podcast will get people to start thinking more about these crucial topics.
Thank you for having me.
Yep. Thank you.
Bye bye.